Christian Burial, Part 1.
Augustine of Hippo, the City of God, Argument 12. Of the burial of the dead, that the denial of it to Christians does them no injury. Since the time of Rome's siege, there has been countless wars and atrocities which have led to many bodies lying about on the fields, streets, and various places. This has brought about the natural question of whether the slain are at risk of missing out from the resurrection because they have not had a proper burial. Augustine then references that do not fear those who can kill the body, but who can kill the soul, and
to be not afraid of them that kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do, referencing Matthew 10 verse 28 and Luke chapter 12 verse 4. Nothing in this life could affect the dead to whom have already passed, for their corpse is only a lifeless husk.
They who kill the body are said to do something because the death blow is felt, the body still having sensation, but after that they have no more that they can do, for in the slain body there is no sensation.
And so there are indeed many bodies of Christians lying unburied, but no one has separated them from heaven, nor from that earth, which is all filled with the presence of him who knows whence he will raise again what he created. It is said indeed in the Psalms 79 2-3, the dead bodies of thy servants have they given to be meat unto the fowls of heaven, the flesh of thy saints unto the beasts of the earth. Their blood have they shed like water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them.
Do not fear desecration of the dead, for they don't feel, nor are they at risk of losing out on the redemption. For God's presence is out in all the world, and he knows all and has the power to raise all from death. Also remark that Psalms chapter 79 verses 2-3 points out the truth that our dead bodies will decay into the earth and be used as meat and sustenance for various creatures. This will in no way affect the bodily resurrection, for God creates new perfected bodies through which can hold our anima or spirit and our psyche or soul or mind. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Psalms 116 verse 15. Wherefore all these last offices and ceremonies that concern the dead, the careful funeral arrangements and the equipment of the tomb and the pomp of obsequies, are rather the solace of the living than the comfort of the dead. Augustine notes how, in reference to Psalms 116 verse 15, that no suffering nor pain is meaningless, in spite of what materialists and atheists would say. All the suffering and pain that exists has a purpose to it before the eyes of God, which was to build long suffering, endurance, and character, which testifies to the hope, and that which I have referenced in Romans chapter 5 verses 4-6. Augustine then talks about the rituals and rites associated with the dead and burial practices. These practices are not really important for the dead at all, since the corpse is but an empty husk, but the burial and funeral serves more as a reminder and solace for the living to remember their loved ones and recognize the future hope that therein lay in the power of Christ and the resurrection. Also, an expensive or poor burial, or even no burial, matters not, for all burials serve a purpose to give comfort to the living, as I have mentioned prior. But even their own philosophers, Diogenes, Seneca, Cicero, Theodorus, etc., have despised a careful burial, and often whole armies have fought and fallen for their earthly country without caring to inquire whether they would be left exposed on the field of battle or become the food of wild beasts. Of this noble disregard of sepulture, poetry has well said, "He who has no tomb has the sky for his vault." Lucan Pharsalia chapter 7, verse 819. How much less ought they to insult over the unburied bodies of Christians, to whom it has been promised that the flesh itself shall be restored, and the body formed anew, all the members of it being gathered, not only from the earth, but from the most secret recesses of any other of the elements in which the dead bodies of men have lain hid. At the beginning of the passage that I read out, Augustine was referencing the Syrian and atheist philosopher Theodorus, who responded to Lysimachus, an individual who had threatened Theodorus with crucifixion. Theodorus's answer was, "Threaten that to your courtiers. It is of no consequence to Theodorus whether he rot in the earth or in the air." This is from Laërtius Diogenes in his book Socrates with Predecessors and Followers, Aristippus, from 1925. Or rather, this was a translation from 1925, translated by Robert Drew Hicks. Augustine also referenced the Lucan Pharsalia, chapter 7, verse 819, where Caesar forbade some to be buried after the Battle of Pharsalia. These references may seem quite obscure today, but they emphasize how the heathens or pagans who laugh at Augustine's arguments and critics against the city of God do not really care about the burial of the dead, especially after grand battles. He was just basically calling out the philosophers as hypocrites who laughed at his arguments, but then still ended up supporting the same ideas when it pragmatically suited them. Therefore, we are reminded that we should not worry about burial or the lack thereof, for it has no bearing on our salvation and future resurrection. That being said, Augustine still sees that there is an importance of burial to act as a reminder for the living that our time here is short, and Augustine will lay out his argument justifying the importance of burying the body in argument 13 of book 1, The City of God. So yeah, thank you for watching, and be sure to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. Thank you, bye bye.